I'm Courtney.
I'm Shelley.
And we're the wet blankets of Smiley Aesthetics. I officially have another wet blanket. I'm so excited to be here with Shelley Proctor on her almost the end of the very first week at Smiley Aesthetics. And I would love for Shelley to tell everyone a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into what your role is going to be with me as the duo of compliance wet blankets.
Thank you. So I'm Shelley Proctor, third day at Smiley when we're recording this. So I worked in healthcare for over 20 years, focused in quality, patient safety, risk management, and compliance. So have a traditional healthcare background, delving into the world of medical aesthetics now for as the Director of Quality and Compliance for Smiley. So I'm super excited to be joining this awesome team. And really provide a robust quality and compliance plan and process to make sure our focus is always on the safety and quality of not only our clients, but also to help protect our staff and our injectors so that we can provide the highest quality, safest care possible.
Yeah, and of course, as if you've watched this podcast before, you know anything about me from social media, that's all music to my ears, because that's essentially what my role is at Smiley Aesthetics. As far as beyond the organizational type stuff, as the attorney, is risk management and trying to assess where we can make moves, where we can't, and help guide the team in that way. And during one of my initial conversations with Shelley, we talked about this analogy that we use all the time in the world of medical aesthetics, which is driving down the road without a speed limit. So if you've listened to us before, just tune out for a second for those of you who haven't listened. But we say all the time that the world of medical aesthetics is like driving down the road. And you get pulled over and you see a speed limit that says 55 miles an hour, and the officer says, "Do you know why you got pulled over?" And you're like, "Well, I know I wasn't speeding, so it has to be a tail light or something else." Well, in medical aesthetics, more often than not, you're driving down the road and there isn't a speed limit posted. Mm-hmm. So when you get pulled over, you don't know if you were speeding or not, because you don't know what the speed limit is. And then more often than not, sometimes you don't even have a road. You're driving down a dirt path. So in your previous, and tell me if I'm not right in this, but in your previous work, the road would be like the Joint Commission, right? Mm-hmm. The body that keeps all of the rules and regulations that a hospital must comply with.
Yes, absolutely. So the world of hospital-based healthcare is very highly regulated by both. It has to be an accrediting body that can either be Joint Commission. There's a few other companies as well that provide accreditation, and that's through CMS, which is your Center of Medicare and Medicaid Services. So they have conditions of participation. So in order to get reimbursement from any Medicare or Medicaid patients, you have to meet a very strict listing of here is everything you need to comply to provide safe care to patients. And it can be anything from how you administer medications to a patient, to do you have adequate fire protection in your building? It's a vast catalog of regulations and very specific and refined. So that world is, I'd say, very structured and regulated. And like you said, medical aesthetics does not have those guardrails, so to speak, right now. So it is an exciting time and exciting to come from hospital-based healthcare to help provide structure and what that process is and what makes sense for medical aesthetics to provide. Like I said, it's always safety, quality, and then that kind of dovetails with how do we stay compliant in providing that excellent care.
Yeah, because a good point is we don't have those guardrails, but we will.
Yes.
And we have said since the inception of Smiley Aesthetics that our goal is to provide the inclusive, compliant, convenient medical aesthetic care, but also to be the case study for when these guardrails are created, that we are doing things, that we've done for the past 2 years, but then also with, you joining us, that we are consistently looking to set the standard. It's not just that we are saying, well, there's no rule, so fair game.
Wild West.
Yeah, the Wild West. It's like, this is still the practice of medicine. We still have brains. We can still use common sense to say what makes sense in the world of medical aesthetics, that we can pull from other areas, and that in the legal world, that's called persuasive authority, that we can pull from an area like the Joint Commission that would make sense in this as persuasive authority for us as we build out this platform.
Yeah, absolutely. And, if you look at like the history of healthcare quality, patient safety, performance improvement in healthcare, a lot of it got its roots from a lot of the performance improvement in lean processes from like the auto industry. So once upon a time, even hospitals, traditional healthcare, they were developing quality patient safety programs. So, that has not always been the case for traditional healthcare as well. So it's evolved over time, I'd say over the past 30 or 40 years. And really, like, the patient safety movement in healthcare started in the late 90s. In the 1999, there was that Institute of Medicine study that talked about...
You'll see why I'm so excited. Listen to the Shelley.
Yeah, so there was a study in 1999 by the Institute of Medicine that estimated around 250,000 people a year died of medical error. Yeah. So that really started the impetus for what a patient safety program looks like in not only hospitals, but physicians' offices and things like that. So, but a lot of the structure of how to have a quality program, it's really, a lot of it applies across multiple industries. So not just healthcare. So a lot of it came from the auto industry and then evolved. Yes. Carla has a question.
Because human fake errors, and it's it's not.
Yeah.
Perfection is impossible.
Absolutely.
No errors in medicine. You can repeat that word I said.
Yeah.
Is not realistic in any form or fashion.
Yeah. Carla in the peanut gallery made a good point. We are human. We're going to make mistakes. Even on our best days, when we try our very best and follow policies, procedures, and the tools we have at hand, we can still make a mistake. So that's really
in medical aesthetics, you will have at some point, if you are doing it for any amount of time, you will have a vascular occlusion.
Yep.
Period.
Yeah.
And that does not mean that you are a terrible healthcare provider.
Right.
It is, what do you do when that happens?
Yep. And every human is different. You can do everything right. And you could have two different people and you do the exact same thing and they have the same medical history and there can still be a complication even when you do everything right. So that's just what makes us all unique and but it can happen. So how do we provide from a quality perspective? Can we provide tools and processes to help those that are providing the care? Absolutely. So that's really the goal, is can we give you a process that makes sense, that's doable, because we don't want to give people 50 steps when they can do 5 and have the same outcome. So trying to make it efficient, because we're all super, super busy, but in a way that's safe and kind of helping provide guardrails.
Yeah.
So more to come on that.
Yeah. And you'll quickly pick up on little sayings that we have here, but one of the things that we say, especially in training, is that we train on patients, on faces, not on patterns, for exactly what you just said. I mean, it's not a cookie cutter solution in medical aesthetics, and that, I think that's probably step one in some type of plan, is understanding that each patient is unique in that. So you said more to come on that. So what, in your many days here at Smiley Aesthetics, what are you thinking when you come into an environment like this? Like, what is your strategy for after you've digested everything? Is it is your strategy, you think, at this point, like, take it down to the ground intellectually and then kind of look for any holes and build back up?
Yeah, kind of exactly that. And I was talking to Adrian and Mercedes about that yesterday. We were talking about the current QC process here at Smiley, which has, been, I think, looking at 6 months worth of data on injectors. And really we're in the midst of that right now. As I come on board, that process is undergoing. So really talked about closing that review cycle, so to speak. And then, have some time where we can bring like a multidisciplinary team together. I'm always a big fan of let's try to get people from different backgrounds because everyone has different perspectives.
Sure.
Even if you're two nurses that have the same background, you have different experiences. So bring a group of people together and really let's talk about and almost say, what's working well. Let's start with that because it's really easy in medicine, medical aesthetics, and we're just humans to be like, let's just jump to what didn't go well. Yeah. Let's focus on what are we doing well? How can we build on that? Is there ways that we can leverage that to make it more robust? And then also it's like, where are we seeing things? Like, what are we seeing in our reviews that we maybe need to dive into deeper or expand our process, or then really from performance improvement, take it the next step. It's like, okay, is this an opportunity where we can provide education?
Yeah.
Like what are our next steps? Because it's great to get information and your data, but if you don't do something with it, it's not going to be valuable.
So a good example of that was like if you notice when you gather all the data, if you notice that there's a consistency of people not putting in their lot number and expiration dates. And so, if that is showing up across multiple people, you can certainly hammer that in. This is a requirement.
Yeah.
But why is it a requirement?
Yes. Yeah.
Because we are humans. Mistakes happen. Mistakes can happen at the manufacturer level.
Yeah.
And we need to be able to understand where, if it's a lot number, pull all patient charts that have that lot number. And I've found, at least in the legal world, not that it makes it easier or people don't roll their eyes, but still like understanding the why. I shared that with you. I had a meeting with a potential independent injector, and I said one of the comments that I get is that we do have a pretty robust quality control process, and that can, be a lot for people at times. And one of the things that I told her is that we don't do anything here just because. We don't just generate paperwork. It all has a place. We need to understand, we need to be able to track if you have on hand your stock is 300 units of Botox, but your patient charts show 500 units of Botox. Where are you getting that 200 units from? So we can catch things like potentially someone getting product where they aren't supposed to.
Right.
They're over diluting. And so while turning in a report might be a headache, understanding the why and that we are all just like, our job here is to not make anyone's job more difficult.
Yep.
Our job here is to make sure that you have a job.
Yes.
At the end of the day.
Absolutely. We're not just wet to be wet. It really is. Yeah. Like you were saying, starting with why and having people understand. I think oftentimes you can see someone other quality, compliance, legal, and you're like, oh my gosh, like they're here to make my life harder. I know sometimes in a past life, walking through the halls of the hospital, everyone would be like, oh my gosh, Shelley's coming.
Don't make eye contact.
It's like, what's she here for? This can't be good. But then once and especially if you bring them into the process and make them involved and then help understand, well, I'm not just saying you need to do X, Y, and Z because I think it'd be fun. It's really, this is why. It's to protect you. It's to provide better care. And once they have an understanding of that, it's like, okay, well, how can we partner together? And then,
I think that's crucial. I think that's crucial, especially for our company, because we have this huge section of people that we essentially do partner with, our independent providers, and bringing them to the table. I think it will be, it will be, I'm very excited about it, to understand what's working well for them, what's not, what is too burdensome. You mentioned earlier, like, is this something that we require 10 steps, which we could actually do 5 and get the same outcome? Like, understanding those to just make it all more efficient, but never sacrificing patient safety and compliance and good quality care. Well, Shelley, I think we're all just so excited. Oh, one more thing I was going to ask. So we're talking about, we have 100, and I don't know what the last number was, but a lot of providers that we partner with are independent providers. And of course, we have our own brick and mortar locations. So we're talking about like this full quality control process. But what if you are just, a one-person outfit? Like, what if you only have 2 RNs at your location? Like, what does a quality control process look like for a small outfit?
Yeah, and it really, that's a great question. It doesn't have to be this like 100-step daunting task that would take you 2 weeks to complete. It really can be like the first thing is you want to define any quality process. What are my goals? What am I looking to achieve? And then, so that could be like, I just want to make sure on this quality control, I want to focus to make sure my documentation has all the information that would be needed. Like you were saying, lot number, expiration, that we're getting appropriate consents from patients, things like that. You can really just take, a sheet of paper and define, I'm going to look at, say, 5 charts this month and say, I'm going to make sure I have the appropriate information I need to gather on the patient. So, whether that's their age, contact information, do we have consents on file? Is lot number and expiration documented? If you're documenting the conversations you've had, if they have questions, things like that, you can define what you're looking for and saying, like, really every single chart should have these elements, and just go from there. And it's amazing once you just kind of keep it simple. I'd say start small, and then you just do that first round, and you'll probably, the light bulbs will start going off and be like, oh, I need to explore this further, depending on what you see, or let me, reach out to my peers and see, are they having the same situation? And really, you can just, like I said, start small, and then you'll get some information to know, it's like, this is what I need to do next. I need to provide more education, or we need to tighten up this part for documentation. Yeah,
and that's for charting. I mean, a thing that we talk about all the time is how to properly rotate stock.
Yes.
For expiration, it's the worst thing. And I've heard that it's terrible. When someone goes to pull out a box of filler and it expires next week. And you're like, how was this not in the front? How can we? But we are all human. We all make errors. And the purpose is to develop a process to prevent that specific error in the future. So tomorrow you can make a new error and you can learn from it. Absolutely. So I thought I had, while you were talking about pulling the charts, it would probably be beneficial, I would say, if I was helping someone develop this out, to have a review like that with your medical director.
Yeah, absolutely.
To pull those out and to do more of a collaborate, because if you look at the end results, if you get a board nursing complaint, they're trying to prove that you have adequate supervision, and that the medical director is doing their job and responsibilities in collaborating. And so having a meeting like that where you go over a sample and really critique, really give yourself a grade on those type of things with your medical director, and that be documented. I would say that would be like a gold star to any board that you are doing that type of that work.
Absolutely. And I'd say too, just in that process, and no matter what you're looking at, just keep an open mind, give yourself grace. We are human, and it's really, no one's looking at like a quality review or a deep dive. It's not a gotcha moment. It's never about, Courtney, you were doing this wrong. Like, it's not like the principal office moment. It's shift your mindset to, this is to make things better.
Yeah.
And we're always growing, we're always developing, and we will make mistakes, but it's really a process of just continuous improvement.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was about to say, is have the mindset of, you will never have this perfect. Your job is, because in the moment we have it perfect, we will implement a new technology that changes everything. And then we'll have to re-perfect everything. That this is the world of business, the world of medicine is an evolutionary world. And so we have to be willing to evolve, or our business will be like the dinosaurs and be extinct. So, well, Shelley, I'm so thrilled to have you. And I think that, your thought process on what your job is, what your skill set is, will be really valuable, not just from a compliance standpoint, but in that partnership, how you feel about really coming together with all parties involved to come up with a solution that makes sense and that's safe. So more to come from Shelley. Oh, I think, did we mention that you, that spreadsheet, with the check. So if you don't already follow us on Patreon at Smiley Aesthetics, we post weekly videos about business, clinical, legal, compliance, all types of things. And so that, that grading rubric for charts that Shelley talked about, we have a Excel spreadsheet that we will share over on Patreon. So you can get started. If you're a 1 person or if you're a 10-person outfit, you can get started on your own quality compliance process. And as always, we are here to help in any way that we can and provide some industry insights that we have. And if we don't have the answer, we probably know someone who does.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you.